Hi guys, it's Amerie. Now I know I told you about my most anticipated reads for 2016, but there are a lot of books that I have on the shelves that I really want to get to as well. I saw a video recently that Reagan at Peruse Project did called the top 10 books she wanted to get to this year, and I figured I'd do a video like that too, especially because I made a very big effort last year to not buy too many books. I still bought many books. Well, I mean, that's a relative term. I bought a lot of books, not as many as I bought in 2014, but last year I really made an effort to not purchase as many books. I read a lot of library books, lots of library e-loans specifically, and I tried to just go through books on my shelves. That didn't really work so great though. There are always new things coming out, and you're discovering new reads. Even if they didn't come out in the same year, you still are discovering new things and you want to read them, which brings me back to my most anticipated of 2016. Now, my most anticipated books of 2016 were all new releases that I'm very much anticipating. However, I do have lots of books on my shelves that I didn't get a chance to get to last year or the year before or the years before that, and I really want to get to them, and I'm anticipating reading those just as much as I'm anticipating reading the new books that are coming out in 2016. So this has been a long introduction just to tell you these are the top 10 books that I want to read this year that are sitting on my shelves right now. Let's go. The Bone Clocks by David Mitchell. I've yet to read Cloud Atlas, but I really want to read this one, especially because Slade House came out this year and I wasn't able to read Slade House. Well, what it is I heard that there are ties to this book in Slade House, and you can enjoy Slade House without reading The Bone Clocks, but you will better enjoy it if you know kind of like the Easter eggs or the references. And I tend to like reading books in the order in which they were published for each author, because I kind of like to see how they've grown, how they've changed, their perspective, all of those things, which means I would be reading Cloud Atlas, right? I do want to read Cloud Atlas, but not more than I want to read The Bone Clocks, so that's why I'll be reading this first. Ooh, Thunder. Wow, it's strong. I love thunderstorms. I used to live in Texas and I love thunderstorms. And in Southern California, you just don't get a lot of that. Hearing this is awesome. Like, I used to sit on the porch in Texas and just watch the rain. And I used to want to be struck by lightning when I was younger. I was convinced that it would give me like powers or some kind of like ESP or some kind of ability. I mean, mind you, I did a lot of reading when I was young, but I was also like, in middle school. So I've since learned that you don't want to be struck by lightning. It's extremely painful and there are burns involved and potentially physical damage. So, yeah. Oh, and I didn't tell you what The Bone Clocks was about. That's one book that I didn't want to know too much about. And I was potentially spoiled in this interview I was listening to. It was this author interview. It wasn't even the author. It was some other author talking about another book. Great conversation, but he kind of let something out of the bag. And I was like, why are you telling us this? You're spoiling a book and it's not even your book, you're spoiling it, and the book is still new. Anyway, young girl, time travel, mysterious people that she meets in the past and meets in the future, and then she learns their role and lives converge. It's all over the place, but it was enough for me to really, really want to read that book. Dreams of Gods and Monsters by Laini Taylor. I really want to read this. The reason why I haven't read this third and final book in the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy is because it's been so long since I've read book 2. I really honestly need to reread in order to kind of get back into the vibe of things. And since I wasn't really in the mood to reread book 2, that's why I hadn't gotten to book 3. But now that she's coming out with that new book, I really want to go ahead and finish this series. Dope titles though. Dreams of Gods and Monsters, Days of Blood and Starlight, Daughter of Smoke and Bone. Amazing titles. The Diviners by Libba Bray, book 1. I actually am okay with taking my time to have gotten to this book because we are now on book 2 as far as release. So we still need books 3 and 4. So we've got a bit of time, and I'm not the best at letting a lot of time stretch between installments. So I'm not quite upset with this, with not having read this. I do want to read this year though, because I do have Lair of Dreamers. But then what? I don't want to be in a situation where I need to reread book 2 to get to book 3 for next year. So maybe this will be more of an end of the year type situation for me, because if I read this at the end of the year and not marathon book 2, which is what I was going to do, but like give it like 4 to 6 months, then it won't be that long before book 3, because I just don't do well with too much time between volumes. The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This is about a murder that takes place in a school, kind of like in a secret society, Skull and Bones kind of secret school club. What was the dance? I don't know what the dance was about. It was I don't know why Skull and Bones would give me the shimmy. But anyway, it's about something that happened, a murder that takes place. I believe that's in the first paragraph because I did read the first couple of pages. So, that scared me. I need to read this book. Why? Because I really want to read this book, The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. I told you about wanting to read in the order things were published. I know she wrote a book called The Secret Friend or The Little Friend, but it doesn't have the same amount of love as these two books, so I'm okay with going back to that one. But I want to start with The Secret History and then read The Goldfinch. I think subconsciously I was saving this book because it's just, there's so much expectation I have for it, and I just felt like I know it's going to be good. I really need to save it. I really just want to savor it. But Amerie, how about we go ahead and read this now? There's plenty of books. Can't save everything. It's like when I was in university, I used to save a lot of things. Like I would only wear a sweater like once because I was saving it only for special occasions because it was a really nice sweater. And you know what? I wore that sweater like 3 or 4 times ever, and then I don't even know where it is now. Saving things gets you nowhere. We're gonna have a talk about this one day. I digress. Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. The story takes place in the future. There's a big divide between the haves and the have-nots. A billionaire game creator who created like a virtual reality is about to pass away or has passed away, and in his will he said that he left some Easter eggs in the game, and whoever finds the ultimate prize or whatever wins all of his money. That's the gist of it. I haven't read this yet. He did come out with a new novel called Armada, which I haven't read. The consensus seems to be that everyone liked this much better than Armada, so it's not like I'm rushing to read this to get to Armada. I just really want to read this because it does seem to be a very, very loved book. And it's been sitting on my shelves for a very long time. The Corrections by Jonathan Franzen. This is a book that I told you about in my Bookalutions, aka Bookish Goals of 2016 video. I loved Freedom. It made me laugh. I read that like 2.5 times. So I really want to get to this one because most people who enjoy Franzen say that this one's even better. So since I really love the last one, I'm hoping that I'm going to super duper 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 love this one. Love can't really be, never mind. I'm having way too many digressions. I was gonna say that you can't love something kind of and then super duper love something else because love is indivisible, but that's another digression. I'm having a lot of digressions. It may be time for me to get something to eat. When the Sea is Rising Red by Kat Hellison. This is the first book in a series. I think it's a duology. I actually have the second book on ebook and I've had it for years. It's hard to put the synopsis of this book into a nutshell, but I'm going to try. The main character is upper class. She's part of like an aristocracy. Her family is one of the families that founded the city or town that she lives in. And it's a magical city. Magic exists in this world. So a lot of people in the upper class have magical powers, but she doesn't want to fall into the path that's expected of her. Her best friend, in fact, kills herself because she wants to avoid marrying someone she doesn't want to marry. So she throws herself off the cliff and throws herself into the water. After her best friend's death, she disguises herself, ends up being a scullery maid, has no access to her powers. I don't know why she can't access her powers because she's run away, but it's something with the magic system. I guess I'll find out when I read the book, which isn't that thick actually. It should be a pretty quick read, and I've been wanting to read this for a long time. I don't know why I didn't. Anyway, after a while, corpses begin to wash up from the same body of water that her best friend threw herself into. So something that her best friend did by killing herself in that water woke something up. Some wild, untamed, very dangerous magic that now no one knows how to deal with. But there's something that she can possibly do to help. So the question is, does she go back to the life that she was running from, or does she just stay hidden and do nothing while, I'm assuming, more people are killed? It sounds really intriguing, and there's a book 2 as well, which had this really cool cover. It was like this talon and this ribbon. I really wanted to read that, but I couldn't read it because I didn't read book 1, which is why this is the year that I'm doing it. I'm so intrigued by the story. So, 2016. Bel Canto by Ann Patchett. I've never read an Ann Patchett book. I've heard lots of good things. This first came onto my radar when Maggie Stiefvater mentioned this book in one of her blog posts, and she said this is one of the books that feed her. I'm always looking for books that feed me as a writer. It takes place at an opera house, I believe. Terrorists overrun the house and hold everyone hostage. And during the process, I don't know if it's one night or several nights, you get to kind of get to know everyone, including the terrorists. That's the general plot of the book. Every year I say I'm going to get to this, and every year I don't. So hopefully this will be the year where things change. Finally, All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. You already know what this book is about because it's been all over the place. It's World War II, and a young, blind Parisian girl's path crosses with that of a boy in the Hitler Youth. And go. This book has been highly lauded, a National Book Award finalist, I believe, and it won the Pulitzer Prize. It's time for me to get to this book. So those are my top 10 books that I own that I want to get to, need to get to in 2016. Let me know if there are any books that are sitting on your shelves that you haven't gotten to yet that you intend to make happen. We all have these books, and it's time to read them. At least I think 3 to 5 of these books can be read this year. You know, even though these other books are going to be coming into view, I definitely have to be able to get to at least 5 of them. We'll see. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it. Please share the video, and of course, don't forget to subscribe. Until later, I will see you next time. Bye! On a writing craft level, I was so impressed by the circularity of the story. The chapters were short and tense. I actually went online to research the ship and look at the ship wreckage. I just was so immersed. I highly recommend this. Even if you don't typically read historical fiction,